This video is about Quatuor pour la fin du temps by Olivier Messiaen. I will explain the most important things about the work and the composer. Olivier Messiaen was a French composer who lived from 1908 to 1992. During the Second World War, he was taken prisoner by the Germans and interned in Stalag in Gorlitz. It was there that he composed one of his most important works, the Quatuor pour la fin du temps, Quartet for the End of Time. Messiaen wrote the work under the most difficult conditions, with only a few musicians and a broken piano at his disposal. The Quatuor pour la fin du temps is a chamber music work for clarinet, violin, cello, and piano. Messiaen composed it in 1940 while he was a prisoner in Stalag. He wrote the work for the musicians who were with him in the camp, a clarinetist, a violinist and a cellist. Messiaen himself took on the piano part. The quartet was premiered in the camp on January 15, 1941, in front of an audience of about 400 fellow prisoners. Messiaen was inspired by the Book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible, when composing the quartet. In particular, the section about the end of time and the return of Christ fired Messiaen's imagination. He chose quotes from the Revelation as titles for the individual movements of the quartet, such as Liturgy of Crystal or Dance of Fury, for the 7 trumpets. In this work, Messiaen set to music his vision of the end of time and eternity. The Quatuor pour la fin du temps consists of 8 movements that are played without a break. In this work, Messiaen used some of his characteristic compositional techniques, such as modes with limited transposition possibilities and non-retrogradable rhythms. These techniques give the music a special timbre and complexity. Messiaen often worked with dissonant harmonies and irregular rhythms to create music that is full of tension and expression. The 5th movement, Louange à l'éternité de Jesus, Praise of the Eternity of Jesus, is particularly impressive, with the cello playing an extended, ecstatic melody accompanied by slow, meditative chords from the piano. The Quartet for the End of Time is considered one of the most important chamber music works of the 20th century. It is a deeply spiritual work that expresses the horrors of war and the longing for salvation and peace. With this work, Messiaen created a new musical language that broke the boundaries of traditional harmony and rhythm. The quartet had a great influence on subsequent generations of composers and inspired many musicians to create their own compositions. After its premiere in Stalag, the Quartet for the End of Time was initially rarely performed. It was only after the war that it became known to a wider audience and developed into an integral part of the chamber music repertoire. Today, the work is performed worldwide and has been recorded on numerous sound carriers. Many renowned musicians and ensembles have explored the quartet and presented their own interpretations. The Quartet for the End of Time is more than just a musical work, it is a spiritual message that Messiaen wanted to express through music. The work is about the end of time, eternity, and the longing for salvation and peace. With his music, Messiaen wanted to touch his listeners and inspire them to spiritual contemplation and reflection. The quartet is a testament to Messiaen's deep faith and his conviction that music can build a bridge between the earthly and the heavenly. Even today, more than 80 years after its creation, the Quartet for the End of Time has lost none of its expressiveness and fascination. The work touches listeners with its spiritual depth and tonal beauty. It confronts us with existential questions about the meaning of life, suffering and death, hope and salvation. Messiaen's music is timeless and universal. It speaks to people of all cultures and religions and opens our hearts to the dimensions of the spiritual and the transcendent. The Quartet for the End of Time occupies a central position in Messiaen's oeuvre. It marks a turning point in his compositional development and lays the foundation for his later music. Many of the techniques and ideas that Messiaen developed in this work can also be found in his later compositions. The quartet is a key work for understanding Messiaen's musical language and his spiritual worldview. It shows impressively how Messiaen transformed the horrors of war and imprisonment into deeply human and consoling music.